Hello everybody. So I wanted to make another Blender and Godot video. I've been enjoying making those lately. In this one I went ahead and started a Godot project and I have a simple model in Blender. Um, this is eventually going to be a medieval looking hut. So right now it's sort of a prototype. Doesn't look very much like a medieval hut at all. That we need the details to add in there. And that's kind of what I wanted to make this video about. There's lots and lots of tutorials on YouTube and other places around the internet about Blender with all sorts of fancy tools. Like, for example, to make this a look like a thatched roof. Here in Blender, the best thing to do would probably be go over to particles and add some hair particles. That probably don't need to be that long. 6 feet's good. That'll work. And look from the front and come over here and grab like the particle comb and kind of comb those into a sort of shape. Come down, look down from the top and hit the scissors and trim that off, sort of like the way a bottom of a thatched roof would look. And we can make a really nice looking thatched roof really quickly that way. I'll go back to object mode. Well, that one's probably could have made that a little bit thicker. If there's a good angle, you kind of see that. Uh, make a really good looking thatch roof really quick that way. But the particle system won't transfer over to Godot, so can't make it. That wouldn't work for a thatched roof there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Not all of our really fancy stuff. So if we come over here, some of the shaders will come over, but Blender has a lot of really nice shaders, a lot more than Godot does. So not all of them will come over. Our basic BSDF materials will. And something looked odd there for a second. So that's what's going on right now in Godot. If I jump over there, and I did already set up the project a little bit. I have some other videos going through those steps, but so do lots of other people. So there's lots of things. As of Godot 4, to summarize it, as of Godot 4, Blender is fully integrated. So go to project settings and under all the way to the bottom under file system import, Blender should be enabled by default. Just check that if it's not. And under editor settings, under file system, which is at the top here, just set Blender 3 path to wherever Blender is installed. In the Blender Foundations folder, that should be wherever applications regularly installed. Just go through there and look for the one that has all the files, has lots and lots and lots of files in it. And just point at that folder. And then just save your Blender file in the Godot project and it imports and everything. Let me just bring this in. And we work with it, it updates. There's other videos about that. You can see the materials came in here, even the transparency on the glass, the alpha blend mode, and the BSDF. I guess I can point at that. That wasn't in any of my other videos. So if I look at the glass material, that's not glass. Look at the glass material, I just kind of did something blue and then set the alpha value and then went to alpha blend and then that imports fine into Godot. You might have to adjust some settings. So if you double click on it to go into pre-import, make sure it's checked so that the meshes and the material, make sure materials are enabled. Yeah, if you have a bunch of animations and they try to blend together, just switch this all influences to the 4 influences. But in general, all influences seems to be working for me. But you may have to adjust the settings a little bit, but all the materials and everything should come in fully editable. If we go to editable children and just choose one of these, like the door. Oh, the door is a good one because I opened it with the shape key. So have the shape key here so I can open and close that from the code really easily. Oh, materials. And if we extend our material, and see it's fully editable here as well. Oh wait, this one's not editable. Why is that not editable? I thought I had it set where it would come in editable. Um, says the materials are coming in. Oh, so do have to come in and check the box. So on your import thing, go over to materials and enable this box on all of them if you want to. But you can see the materials coming right over. And you might have to hit this checkbox, but then you have all your Blender materials right here. Re-import that. And now we should have an editable material. So like if we want to change the color, yeah, I can make it blue or something. Um, undo that. Oh, uh-oh. Uh, there we go. I'll hit undo a couple times. So our materials come in and everything, but doesn't look very medieval looking. And well, like a really good thatched roof can do that quickly with a particle system in Blender, but that's not going to come over. So I wanted to make a video about how to do that, and this introduction took a lot longer than I thought, but let's get into this now. So we need to go back over to Blender, and what we can do, what will fully come in every time, there's a few things that will and a few things that won't, but one that will every time is if we go to our modifiers. So like I'll do the wall, I'll do the chimney first. That's the one that definitely looks way off here. So let's do the chimney first. If we add a modifier, our displacement modifiers will come in really, really well every time. So that's a good way, consistent way to get something nice in Blender brought over into Godot. So to make this look like stone, I'll just go ahead and select the fireplace here. I have everything named and in different parts. That way I can break the windows and stuff when I get to coding this game. So a little more than a prototype, but not quite the finished version yet. First thing, there's not very many faces on that fireplace. So I'm going to go to modifier and add a scroll down and add a subdivision surface. And depending on how many subdivisions you give it, this gives it more room so that the texture we're getting ready to put on to make it look like stone can have a better effect. But I'm going to go with simple. And you don't want to go very high on the faces. So maybe 7 is probably the most extreme. And I'm only going up to 7 because that's a small item. The subdivision does extend the time it takes to bring in. So if you have like a big castle, this happened to me earlier this afternoon, a great big castle that a whole bunch of huts could fit inside of, you might have to go get lunch while it imports because if there's too many subdivisions. But once we have some mesh to work with, we can add a modifier and go to displace. And kind of looks like a mess. We'll come back and adjust these. Most of that's in the mid-level here, but we want to hit a new texture and maybe give it a name so that we can work with it. I'll call it stone. And now if we scroll down to the bottom to our texture tools, it should be opened up. And right here where it says the type, just choose one of the other ones. Stucky makes some nice stones. A couple do. Depending on the type of stone, you might use marble. That's the marbling texture, like the grain veins we would see in marble. Not sometimes it can make a good stone, nice round stone. Musgrave can make a good stone, and Stucky can make makes a good stone. That's the two I usually go with. Stucky has less options, so I'll do that in the video. But you want to play around with the different options. So after you choose the base random noise pattern, for the noise basis, this one right here works really good for making stone. You can see that pattern that we're working with. Kind of spread it out. It's stretched out quite a bit. I'm going to switch this to wall in and maybe make these a little bit smaller. Something like that. We'll adjust some of this where it looks way off before long. Maybe not that small. Maybe I'll go back to what it was, 0.25. I'll leave it big. Let's see what it looks like. It's this process. You'll want to play around with the numbers and stuff. Depending on the situation, I'll go ahead and show it. You might want to expand colors, turn on color ramp, and add a couple more shaders here. In particular, a couple shaders over towards the dark side, and that will make the texture stand out a little bit more. Right now everything's stretched out. That's probably good. So choose one of the different noise textures. Um, Veroni works really well for stone. You can see the pattern there. Um, have different options. You can play around with the different options and sizes. And adding more of these little sliders in your color ramp, especially if they're moved towards the darker side, will really help your stone stand out. Now, if we go back to that modifier, um, mid-level is what's adding all that space. So let's take mid-level away and set that all the way back to 0. And the strength, I'm going to click on that. Let's see what 0.4 looks like. Okay, that got us close to the original shape, so it needs to go down quite a bit. So 0.2. It's looking more like a fireplace now. 0.15. I think I'll go with that for now. Could keep playing around with it, but that process, you can see, um, gives us something that looks a lot more like stone. And we would do something similar for all of our things. Looks like I didn't lose that. One thing I found on like fireplaces is if you're using random noise texture and you have it like opened up where in animations your characters are going to do stuff there, like I'm going to in this HUD at some point. Uh, it's really easy to lose that inner spot. One other thing I wanted to do, notice how it did extend down below here. So I'm going to, with that selected, I'm going to edit mode. Whoop, and notice when we're right back. So right now we just have the modifiers. So let's apply these modifiers. Make sure you apply the um, subdivision first, so you have all the spaces, and then apply that. So now if we go in edit mode, you'll see that's just what our mesh looks like. And all this down here went too far, so I'm going to maybe look straight from the side, switch to wireframe so that I can select like all of these down here, and push S to scale, then Z so it only scales on the Z axis, and 0 so that they're all flat. Then we hit enter. I can just move that up to the level of the foundation of the floor. There we go, got our nice floor spot back. And if you lose your like fire area from the randomness in the stones, you can do that same thing there. But that gives us something that looks a lot more like a fireplace. If I save this and go back over to Godot, it'll re-import it, and that subdivision modifier takes a minute. I'm going to pause this while that comes in. Okay, so for just that subdivision modifier, so the noise texture is quick. That comes in really quick. So if you have try other things to get enough surfaces, I had to do that because it was just a cube shape. There weren't very many faces. There weren't faces and edges and things to work with. There weren't vertices to work with. So added a subdivision modifier. If you have enough to work with, that is quicker. But I did sit there and count it. It took 87 seconds since I wasn't doing anything but waiting for it to come in. So just on that little bitty piece, it took 87 seconds. All the measurements are correct here. So the door, when I bring in a human, characters fit by the door and everything. So it's actual measurements. But you can see that came in and we got that shape and the material and everything. So that's how we make these look a little bit better. I guess I'll do the rest of it now, but it's the same steps. So maybe I'll do it really quick a second time and then pause the videos for some other ones. That way it doesn't get too long. So maybe the plaster walls. I'm going to select the plaster walls, which again started as a cube. If I go to edit mode, you can see there's almost no vertices and faces to work with. So I need to add a subdivision modifier. That way there's some spots to work with. Just a simple one. I'll go with 4. That way it's a little bit less. That'll probably work for this. I'll go ahead and apply that. And now add a displacement modifier with a new texture. I'll call it plaster. Well, I know I'm going to turn the mid-level down because that adds space to it, and maybe 0.4. I'll turn the strength way down. I know that's going to happen for long. Come down and edit the texture. For this one, I'm thinking just random noise. distorted noises a lot. Um, Probably not Veroni for F4, F2, F1. That might work. Um, Turn down the amount of noise, turn down the size on it. Quite a bit going on here. If I come up here, that scales it up. That looks like a good one on there. Maybe not the best texture, so I'm gonna go back down and keep editing the texture till I find one that works nicely. What's Marble do on this? Marble kind of blends it around, smooths it out. If we go to Object and Shade Smooth, does that have a nice effect? Oh yeah, that looks like um, some plaster smeared on there now. That'll work. So, um, so you can see it's the veins like we would have in marble. That really worked well to make it look like uh, stuff smeared on there. So when we're ready, we can come back here and apply the modifier. And when we hit save and go back over to Godot, it will import it. And again, I'll pause the video while it imports. We don't need to watch the meter. So, yeah, so that didn't take too long. And now you can see it looks a lot more like a finished product. Um, we need to keep adding some stuff. I guess it looks a lot more medieval now because the door doesn't fit in there very well. So I just select the door and hit that shape mesh. It still opens like it's supposed to, but it looks like something some medieval folks would have just thrown together and in the need instead of that nice square shape from Blender. So those textures do make a big difference. I guess the foundation can do the same thing. Let me reset this, come back over to Blender, and this time I'll pause while I do it because no need to necessarily see the steps again. And I'll just do the foundation and the roof, and I'll skip well, the windows are going to be smooth because that's glass. I'll skip the window frames and the door, the wooden stuff, and I'll do something on the roof and the foundation real quick, and then we'll look at the finished product because it's the same step, just choosing the noise texture and adjusting the parameters till we find one that looks good. Okay, just a quick hit check before I apply this. So sort of same thing, turn the mid-level off, the strength way down. I can crank up the mid-level so you can kind of see what happens. Actually, that kind of works there. I'll turn that up just a little bit there. And I basically set the same settings for the foundation. The Stucky made them small and did an extra color ramp and turned the strength way down and the mid-level way down. Um, I was thinking that it would make sense that they got the stones for the foundation. They're about from the same river they got the stones for the thing. And you might want to change the coordinates. You can change it to UV projection, the object, global coordinates if it's moved, different things. You can change it to point down to certain axes or adjust how the RGB colors come through. Um, Try different settings, see what works good. So there's the stone. I'm just going to do something on the roof real quick and I'll pause while I set that, and we'll come back and look at the settings that I went with. And I guess I'm pausing the video real quick for a tip. So I just applied the subdivision modifier. That's the one that takes the longest. So I applied that and hit save and went over and imported it into Godot because that one takes the longest. When we actually get the texture in there, it imports really quickly, like our normal shapes. But that subdivision takes longest. So I would recommend at that point when you do the subdivision modifier, save, go over to Godot, import it with the subdivision modifier, and then come back and do the texture. And that way you don't have to wait when you're anxious to see what it looks like when you import it. Okay, and for a medieval looking roof that came in, on the texture, I chose the wood one, set it to Deveroni F2, F1 again. That has a good thing. Band noise, set the size really small and turn the turbulence up. And this time I put the extra little slider on the color ramp towards the lighter end. If I move that, you can see what it's doing. So where we're getting extra things, I'm gonna put it over here towards the lighter end. And now on the modifier, this is a little bit different than the earlier ones. For the coordinate system, I'll still use local coordinates You can try different ones and see what it looks like. I'm still going to leave it on local coordinates, but for the direction, instead of normal, so normal refers to the line that is straight out from that plane. So you can see it's kind of at an angle going straight out from the plane that we turned into that shape. Instead of doing that, I think I want to go on the y-axis. I can see the green here. So I'm going to choose the y-axis and then tilt all those shapes over so they kind of overlap. Can do some more modification, but that's the basic idea. We'll go ahead and apply that. Up here at the top, it's just a little bit off, so I'm going to move it because of that shape, move it back towards the center. And then to make it symmetric, I'm going to delete this other one and select this and hit Shift D to duplicate. And then if we right click, it goes back to the same spot. So now we can just take the transform and rotate the transform 180 degrees here. Oh, whoops, not on Y. 0 on the Y. Keep it the same Y. Keep it the same X and Y. Rotate it 180 degrees on the Z. And kind of fill in the other side. Which again, that top shape's, drag that over so it kind of overlaps. And that gives us, not the best roof I've ever done, but that'll work for the video, that process. You can add in random noise textures. You can make your own texture pattern instead of using random ones. But when we go back over to Godot, it should import fairly quickly now because it's just that last texture. The slow part's already been brought in. Well, I was expecting it to be quicker than that. I guess I'll pause while it imports. Oh, okay. It happened right after I hit the pause button. It actually took longer to restart the video than it paused for. So you can see there we get a much nicer looking model pretty quick. Could probably spend more time, do better stuff on the roof, but it at least looks like overlapping sheets of something that people in a medieval village would have to throw on the roof. Maybe not perfect thatch. Making your own texture that's just like a lot of streaks might give a good thatch texture instead of the random noise one. Thought that plaster came out really well. But you can see it's well on the way to a much nicer looking model just by applying those textures. And that's the one that there are a lot of tools in Blender, and quite a few of them will come in. But these shape modifiers, if we choose a shape and go to add modifier, these are the ones that affect the mesh and will come into Godot every time. So you can see we can get really nice looking models really, really quickly. 23 seconds. Let me bring in a character real quick. Blender. Hopefully it'll be quick. I have a character as a script. So just delete this. I'm improving a plugin that I made. I started back in 2018, so doing step 2 of it here. I'll just add a woman character, run that, and hopefully this will still be less than 25 minutes. There we go. Unlink that script. Under layout. It's got a skeleton and everything comes in off the script. Still got a little bit more work to do, but that's a plugin I'm working on. And if I save this, again, as of Godot 4, all we have to do is save it in the Godot project. Oh, we can see the .godot folder right there. So when we save it there, Godot will automatically import it for us. Then you can just drag that up here and bring her right into the scene. Oh, which, yeah, so you can see the house the hut is sized appropriately. Bring her out front. And it's well on the way to those finished versions. Still quite a bit of work to do. The graphics take the longest time. So my recommendation is work on the graphics along the way. Start with a decent prototype and just keep improving that. Take steps along the way as you write the code. And then by the time you get the code, you're well underway to getting the good graphics together. That is definitely the one that takes the most amount of time. I just thought I would show that part in Blender, the stuff that the tools from the nice tools from Blender that do come into Godot every time. Thank you. Hope you found that useful.